Hetal?
Somebody who is very, very strong, resilient, who has made a mark for herself. So me and my dad had a 40-year age gap. So I realized early on that I will have to start earning and become the primary breadwinner for the family, even when I was just 16 or 15.
When you talk about leadership development specifically, everybody wants leaders, but when it comes to the development part of it, then there is an investment, as you said. That's where most companies, take a step back. Why do companies fail even despite spending so much of money on leadership development?
Sadly, many organizations fail to do that. They at times only look at individual performers or individual performance and tend to question themselves much more than men. And when there are opportunities, they don't tend to raise their hands. They don't tend to speak up. They don't tend to talk about themselves or promote themselves. And that's where I think the numbers then are in favor of men, because they, even if they're 50% sure that whether they'll be able to do it or not, they tend to go slightly become more overconfident and say, yeah, I'll do it.
Exactly.
I'll get it done. Nobody is coming to rescue your career, and especially with AI and all of this coming in place, we all have to now take charge of our own career. So become the architects of your career and visualize what is it that would make you fulfilled in the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever that time frame is.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another amazing episode of SheSight Magazine's ShePower podcast. I'm Dr. CV, the founder of SheSight Global, and I'm so delighted to welcome today's guest. Before I welcome today's podcast guest, I'm so delighted to announce the launch of a newest initiative from SheSight Global, which is called the SheSpeakers.com. Women with extraordinary expertise are everywhere, but on most stages, they remain invisible. She Speakers changes that. A curated platform where brilliant women leaders, entrepreneurs, academics, and changemakers get discovered, listed, and booked for speaking opportunities they deserve. If you organize events, She Speakers is your go-to for voices that truly represent the world. And if you are a woman with a story and a stage to claim, this is your space. Find your speaker, claim your stage. Visit www.shespeakers.com today. Today's guest has spent over 2 decades inside some of the world's most respected organizations, building the systems, the frameworks, and the cultures that develop people into leaders. She has sat inside boardrooms designing talent strategy at scale, and also made the courageous decision to step away from all of that to build something entirely on her terms. She's a leadership development consultant, coach, and a facilitator who now works closely with professionals, particularly women, on the harder and more honest questions around growth, identity, and what it really takes to lead well. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Hetal Dandia to SheSight Global's ShePower podcast. Hi, Hetal. It's wonderful to meet you today. Thank you so much for joining SheSight podcast, ShePower. And you have also joined us as a ShePower Club member, and I really welcome you and looking forward for a lot of engagement. Let's get started. Who is Hetal?
Oh God, I don't like talking so much about myself, but that's a skill I'm learning as well. I think if I have to describe Hetal as a third person, I would say somebody who is very, very strong, resilient, who has made a mark for herself and is building and reinventing herself every couple of years or every few years, and wants to become the best version of herself.
Wow.
So
Brilliant. Thanks, Hetal. So, of course, your description about you as a resilient person, as someone who is reinventing yourself, you have worked in different domains. You have worked across different industries, hospitality, recruitment, insurance, etc. And what is that version that has shaped you the most, and what made you move towards people and leadership?
So frankly, actually, the early career happened more by chance than design, and a lot of things were shaped through life events. So me and my dad had a 40-year age gap. So I realized early on that I will have to start earning and become the primary breadwinner for the family, even when I was just like, 16 or 15, I realized that I would soon have to take up that role because obviously 40 years age gap, that means he'll be 60 when I'm 20.
Mm.
So I think right after 10th, I started picking up these odd jobs just to kind of get that taste of earning money, having my own money to myself. So I didn't have to ask dad for pocket money. I started picking up odd jobs, whether it's filling out surveys, just manning a stall at exhibitions, even trying out few odd roles or that extra kind of thing in movies and stuff like that. So just to kind of earn money, just to gain that confidence. And I think all of those experiences helped me. My first formal job actually was in a five-star hotel. Even though I didn't have hotel management background, I was a commerce graduate. I joined it just to try it out. That what's the harm? Let's give it a shot. And through there, I learned so many things: customer service, professionalism, resilience, how to deal with difficult people, communication, leadership, influence, so many things.
Mm.
And I think that's one of the things that I look back now. All of these early experiences is what shaped me or my career, because I'm somebody, like I said, I want to learn. Even though if I don't have a formal background, I would love to, learn. I would like to try things. And when it came to leadership development, I think I realized that I'm more interested in human beings, about human behavior, human psychology, what makes people, do things that they do, what motivates them, how, women, um, not just women, obviously, how we learn
Yeah.
generally, how do we, how performance gets impacted. So all of these things kind of pushed me toward this.
Yeah.
And I think after spending like almost 18 plus years in learning and leadership development, this just became something that I'm very, very passionate about.
Mm.
And now I work more with women,
Mhm.
and that is something that I'm exploring. And it's such a wonderful experience to be, coaching leaders, facilitating learning experiences, helping organizations with their talent strategy.
Mm.
All of this, gives me a lot of fulfillment.
Excellent.
Hi everyone, I'm Shruti, and I've got something truly exciting to share. The Fly High Women Awards 2026 is here, and this year we're taking it to an entirely new level. We're honoring women who build boldly, who innovate, create jobs, uplift their communities, and rise even when the world expects them to stay small. Whether you're a micro business owner, a creative entrepreneur, a tech founder, or driving social impact, there's a category just for you. Nominations are officially open. Don't wait. Share your story. Put your work out there. You never know who you might inspire. Tap the link, explore the categories on our website, and send in your nomination today.
So tell us more about how organizations today are evolving. Especially, I just thought of this. We are undergoing a lot of transitions in large organizations at this point. And when you talk about leadership development specifically, everybody wants leaders, but when it comes to the development part of it, when there is an investment, as you said, that's where most companies take a step back, right? And theories like, for example, the 70-20-10, it's all very good in theory. When it comes to organizations, how do they decide on leadership development, and what did you find? Why do companies fail even despite spending so much of money on leadership development?
So I'll break it up into a few components.
Yeah.
One, yes, many organizations fail to realize the importance of investing in people, or investing in learning, or investing in leadership development.
Mm.
And usually I give the analogy of a car. You have your fuel and you have your other things that keeps the car running, which is usually the sales and the revenue and all of that. But learning and development is that, engine oil. If you know, every car needs changing of engine oil, or you need engine oil to keep it functioning. It's just that when you don't have it, you will not miss it immediately. It's
Mm.
only over a period of time the wear and tear will happen, and eventually the car will break down.
Mm.
So that's the kind of role that leadership development or learning initiatives have in an organization. You may not notice that you are actually wearing your organization down or your leaders down, but not paying attention to that is actually going to lead to a bigger breakdown. So the advice would be that invest in the engine oil when it's required. But a lot of organizations do realize that. A lot of big organizations, do invest in these things. And what some of the good organizations do really well is not just focus on learning as one single event, that we did one initiative and then forget about it. Rather, they build an ecosystem. They build an ecosystem where there is not just learning event, but there is an entire culture. That means that managers are supportive, there is mentoring that is happening, there is right feedback that is given, there are projects that are given to put those learning that has happened into action. And there is an entire culture that we want to develop people. And that's what a lot of organizations do really well. And then that's the ones that succeed. And that's the one then emerge as market leaders because they have made those investment in people. Sadly, smaller organizations at times just focus on some tick box activities that, let's do this as either, reward or engagement or something else. And that's where they fail. You don't see that impact because many a times leadership behaviors is seen from the top, how your top leaders behave, how they view training, how they view development, that gets translated as culture. So if organizations really want to make that change happen, they have to focus on not just learning as one event, but building that ecosystem, how your leaders are talking about development, how they are, and learning just doesn't happen in classroom. Like you said, 70-20-10. 10 is the one that happens in the classroom.
Correct.
70 and 20 is what happens on the job. How, the learning culture is on a day-to-day basis. Are you actually investing in people? Are you actually investing in development conversations? So that's where the real impact is. So yes, I hope I've answered all of your
Perfect.
points.
Well spoken. I think the biggest challenges most organizations face is always the ROI, when you calculate the ROI of a learning program versus, and that's where, as you said, it has to be considered as an engine oil and not just as a part. So engine oil, without the engine oil, the car cannot run. So it has to be considered with that way. So, despite doing all these trainings and, you're developing your leaders, you're doing so much of intervention on them. When it comes to promotions, not the right person sometimes gets promoted. Why is it that? Have you seen such a phenomenon in your experience?
Yes, absolutely. And see, again, like I said, sometimes organizations focus only on numbers. Sometimes organization only focus on that who earned the highest revenue or who achieved certain targets. But that all can be, very, very effective parameters where a individual contributor is considered for promotion. But when you step into leadership role, leadership is way more complex than just numbers or just individual performance. A leader needs many more skills than an individual contributor because he is managing other people. He requires emotional intelligence, he requires communication, he needs to have self-awareness.
He also.
He or she, yes, absolutely. More of she
Or
for
they.
me. Yes, but yeah, absolutely. He or she requires, many more complex skill sets than just managing their own performance.
Correct.
So they can be, very good individual performers, but when they step into leadership roles, they need to be evaluated on these parameters. At the same time, they need to be developed on these parameters. Sadly, many organizations fail to do that. They at times only look at individual performers or individual performance and don't have mechanisms to evaluate how this person will actually become a better leader. And many a times, that's where leaders also struggle. you were not skilled to take up these challenges, how to handle development conversations, how to mentor people, how to give feedback. Even those most basic things become a challenge for them.
Mm,
And that's where I feel that gap has to be addressed.
mm.
That when you're looking at promotion, look at the overall role
Yeah.
and not just what who the high performer is in the current role, rather what the future skills are for the role that that person is applying for.
Exactly. Yeah, well said. I got reminded of this. I saw this Instagram reel where the current CEO of Chanel, Lena
Hmm.
Nair, she was
Yeah.
talking and she was sharing this. I don't know. I don't think I, as a leader, can do this, but she's such an amazing person. You know what she said? She said she knows every employee by name and by face.
Wow. Wow.
20,000 Chanel employees. I mean, she has more than 35,000 employees. And she says in that particular reel, I don't know whether she finished learning everyone by now, but that actually was an eye opener for me. A woman leader sitting as a CXO in such a big organization, the kind of leadership that she brings in versus someone else, uh,
True.
it's actually a case study. It's a wonderful case study. That's why when you also talked about the leadership skill sets that's needed, have you noticed this differences in leadership skills where the male leadership versus the female leadership? And obviously, in literature, we have so much of theories out there, feminine leadership, masculine leadership, etc. But in real life, when you are part of organizations, have you had any personal or observations in this regard?
Absolutely. And some of the things that I mentioned makes a good leader. Like I was talking about self-awareness, emotional intelligence, how to manage conflict, how to manage different people and emotions. These are actually skills women are way more, attuned to or way more comfortable dealing with, because that's what they have been doing for many years in their households, in their families. They are the ones who are keeping the household running. They are the ones who are managing everybody's
Yeah, the
needs and
families together.
exactly, they are the ones who are keeping the families together. They are the ones who are there emotionally, physically, taking care of people. So for women, this all things come way more naturally.
Mm.
uh, Men obviously can develop these things, but it takes them slightly longer and harder, and they are far more task oriented than being people oriented.
Yeah.
And that's what I've noticed. And working with women, that's why it becomes even more interesting and rewarding, because you realize that a woman leader sees things from a way wider lens than any male leader would. And I have experienced this with a lot of women leaders. They actually care far more about their
Yeah.
colleagues, about their team, and all of that. I'm again not in the favor of generalizing, because obviously every individual is unique and different. But yes, as a trend
Yeah.
that you see a higher number of women way more comfortable into leadership roles.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really enjoy seeing in organizations.
Excellent. But despite that fact, we still lag behind when it comes to opportunities and, women in
I
leadership roles.
have
Yeah. So
yes.
that's the statistics is actually otherwise. Anyway,
So,
now,
can I just add to that, Chandra? Many a times, so you're absolutely right, and this is something I've noticed and kind of tried to bridge in my previous organizations also.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is women tend to question themselves much
Yeah.
more than men.
Mm.
And when there are opportunities, they don't tend to raise their hands. They don't tend to speak up. They don't tend to talk about themselves or promote themselves. And that's where I think the numbers then are in favor of men, because they, even if they're 50% sure that whether they'll be able to do it or not,
Yeah.
they tend to go slightly become more overconfident and say, yeah, I'll do it, you don't
Exactly.
worry, I'll
Exactly.
get it done, I'll figure it out. Whereas women want to be 100% sure.
Not even
uh,
100, it should be 120%.
Yes, absolutely. So many a times women do, deal with a lot of internal challenges when it comes to imposter syndrome, self-doubt, feeling that I shouldn't talk about myself. Other people should talk about me. I shouldn't, put myself out there. What if I fail? All of those internal limiting beliefs and challenges are something women deal with on a higher scale. And that's where I feel, I would love to make an impact. That's something that I am planning to help women do. And that is something that I'm very, very passionate about. And that's where I feel the numbers would hopefully change in
Yeah.
coming few years.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's, imagine if every woman out there is fully confident about herself, the world will be so different.
I would love to be in that world, and I would love for us to work together and see how we can shape that world
Yeah,
to
we'll
come
do
into
that.
being.
We are getting
Yes,
there.
absolutely.
Okay, now let's step back a little. We were so far talking about the organizational level, and since we spoke about women, as an individual who is working within an organization, okay, let's say I'm working for a big MNC company within the company, and forget MNC, it's a small company. If that's the case, they are not interested in improving my skills or my leadership capabilities, right? So how do an individual develop themselves, whether if your organization is not supportive enough or not helping? What are some of the tips?
So I think the old mindset has to change. Earlier, I think a lot of people looked at their career and they thought it's my boss's responsibility, or it's my manager's responsibility, or it's my organization's responsibility to develop me.
Mm.
I think that mindset shift is happening slowly, where people are realizing that it's my career, I need to own it up. And I would want people to think as architects and not laborers.
Mm.
And the reason I say that, it's very interesting. An architect first, visualizes what he or she wants to build, and then puts out a blueprint of what that is going to be, and then creates plan and all of that, and then starts constructing.
Yeah.
A laborer comes in expecting that I'll be given a plan
Yeah. No,
and
not
I'll
even
just
plan. I'll be told what to do that day.
exactly. So I think we need to shift our mindset from that laborer
Yeah.
to the architect of our own careers.
Mhm.
So if you start viewing your career as a project that you want to develop, start from that. What is it that you want your career to look like in 10 years? What are some of the things that you would want to have? And then start building those skills, start building those areas of expertise. And it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
And many individuals feel stuck there.
Mhm.
They, like I said, they have that laborer mindset and they want somebody else to come and say, oh, this is a good role for you, or you should take this promotion, or you should
Yeah.
do this, or you should, I will nominate you for this training program, attend this. Nobody is coming to rescue your career. And
Mhm.
especially with AI and all of this coming
Correct.
in place, we all have to now take charge of our own career. So become the architects of your career and visualize what is it that would make you fulfilled in the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever that time frame is. And I think then once you have that clarity, you can start building those skills, you can start building those talents, and actually you can write your own job description.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the way world is changing, who knows, there is this entire gig economy that's going on. You can pick up things to gain experience on the side, you can pick up skills, you can learn on your own through so many learning platforms that are there. Get a coach for yourself, get a mentor for yourself, find avenues where you can upskill yourself. Don't wait for an organization or a manager to say, oh, you should do this.
Yeah.
That's what my advice would be.
That's so well said, Hetal. Even I think yesterday I was talking to another wonderful women leader in our club, and she said exactly the same thing what you said. Nobody is coming to rescue you. You better save
Yes.
yourself. So
Absolutely.
it's
Why
a
do you
talk in
want
between.
others to rescue? Because they are going to take you on a path that they have seen. Maybe you don't want to go there. As in, if you plan a trip, you don't look at what others are doing. You want to go where you want to go. So
Absolutely.
identify your own destination is what I would say.
Absolutely.
Yes, but you're absolutely right.
Hetal, actually, I was thinking while you were explaining that you should be planning your career, I thought maybe you could bring this analogy of how you decided to quit a long corporate career and equip yourself to jump into an entrepreneurial role right now, or trying to do something on yourself. Tell us through that journey. And of course, I'm pretty sure, as with any person, there would be moments of doubts and fear, everything. So, can you connect that parallel when you
Yes,
between
absolutely.
how you can
So,
build yourself?
yes, absolutely. So this is something that I have been visualizing for a very long time. So as you know, I have every few years kind of changed my tracks and tried different things. I started with hotels, then I was part of BPOs. I have then I did my MBA after 5 years of work experience because I wanted to do something different. I wanted to come into HR. Um, Again, I worked with big corporates, and for last many years I have been realizing that I'm doing the same things over and over again in my career. I'm not learning anything new. And if I have to sit, so I did this entire, I don't know if you've read the book Ikigai.
Of
I did
course,
that
I've read
entire
that.
activity. Oh, yes. So it's a
That's a
wonderful
life-changing
starting
book.
place.
Everybody should read it, or at least
I agree.
use that framework. That's
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
And I think that I think this was, I think 2018, 19 when I had read this. And that's what started my,
Transformation.
visualization. Yes, visualization of what I want my future to be if I want to feel fulfilled. And that's when I realized that, okay, I want to help people. That is something that I want to do. And that's when I started coaching. I started learning how to coach. I, went through a lot of skill development for my own self. I started within my organization creating a culture of mentoring, coaching, and also how do you kind of help other women being something that I'm very passionate about. But through that journey is what I realized what I want my life or career trajectory to be.
Mhm.
And slowly I was building those blocks, gaining those skills, gaining that experiences. And that finally came a point when I said that this is, I have got enough now in terms of skills and resources. Now is the time to put everything in action,
Yeah,
because knowledge is only good to a certain point. If it does not translate into action, it's of no use.
correct.
So early this year, 2026 being a year of transformation for a lot of people, I decided let me make it mine as well.
Mhm.
And I decided to, yes, quit my very well established corporate career and start something on my own.
Mhm.
And like you rightly said, that it's not been an easy journey, and there has been a lot of ups and downs. There has been moments of self-doubt, and a lot of people don't realize who have been in a comfortable corporate career that there are so many different mindset and skills that you
Yeah,
require to be an entrepreneur. I
absolutely.
think, yes.
Mm.
And that has been a very, very exciting journey for me. And I'm learning every day how to, build myself as an entrepreneur, more from a mindset perspective first, and then in terms of skills also. But yes, I would encourage many more people to take this journey, because this is what I feel, our role as human beings are. We have only one lifetime. Do everything that you want to do, because when else will you get this chance? So yes,
Exactly.
I'm really excited to be in this.
That's so lovely, Hetal. I think the way you narrated it, how you have evolved and transitioned from a very, very safe, secure corporate job to plunging yourself into the uncertain entrepreneurial domain. And I think that actually, again, going back to who is Hetal, Hetal is someone who wants to experiment with her own life.
Yes.
So that's why you're able to do that,
Absolutely.
right? Um,
Yes.
that actually makes me also wonder about how the whole world is transitioning at this point because of AI, right? And
Yeah.
when AI is actually taking over all the planning and decision support and all the white collar jobs, which sometimes even I think about it, I think about, oh my God, what are we going to do? Because all this consulting or professional work that you used to do everything is taken over by AI today. So what exactly are human beings going to do? And if that's the case, what do you think as a leadership coach, some of the skill sets and competencies that we should be focusing on?
I think, I agree that a lot of things will change with AI coming into the workspace. But I feel that also pushes us to reinvent ourselves.
Mm.
Like you said, some of the mundane things can be done by AI. Some of the things that does not require that much, level of humanness can be done by AI. And initially, if you remember, when computers were supposed to come,
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember, in our parents' generation, when computers were getting introduced into workforce, there was a lot of this uncertainty of about how jobs are going to change, how certain roles will be completely redundant. And I agree, some of it did happen.
Mm.
However, but it only made our lives better,
Better. Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Today, we cannot imagine our lives without laptops, computers, smartphones, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And I think going forward, the same will happen with AI also.
Mm.
However, that being said, there are so many elements which cannot be replaced,
Mm.
right? Humans can now become more human, is what I feel.
Mm.
The emotional intelligence that we can offer, the coaching that we can offer, the development conversations that we can offer,
Yeah.
the communication, the human aspect. Like I remember, I was seeing somebody's video and saying that, things like nurses. Or you may have somebody who can probably do the diagnosis, but actual surgery, again, you will need a human to at least supervise it. You would need nurses to take care of things.
Correct.
You would still need mothers. You would still need caregivers. You would still need coaches. You would still need so many other roles, because you still, as humans, want human connection, right? At the end of the day, I think that is what is going to become the new sought out skill. So,
Skills.
for example, today we have so many handlooms,
Mm.
or rather, so many textiles which are machine created.
Mm.
But people are ready to pay premium for
For
something that
the
is hand woven.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, some of the things can be very, very automated, but you would still pay premium for that personalized service.
Mm.
So that's where I feel the human value will come into picture.
Correct.
And like I said, there are so many skills, there are so many job roles that still cannot be replaced by AI.
Mm.
And that's where I think humans have to evolve and say, this is what I bring to the table,
Yeah.
not just about what are the, certain tasks that I can do, but what is it I offer as a human being. So I think that is going to be a very interesting transition for our generation. And
Mhm.
I'm so glad to be, living in this age where we can see that transition happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great. What you said is so true. Where the great, I really love that analogy of people paying premium for handwoven. I think maybe in future we would, though we have AI agents taking over some of the work. When you want a human, obviously the service will be premium, as you said. And that's where I'm thinking, what is the current trajectory of organizations, especially in the L&D domain, and whether organizations are considering investments in leadership development, or are they taking a foot back?
I think, again, many organizations who are aware are actually investing into these human skills. So, like I was saying, that these human skills are what is going to be the, differential. So, what earlier used to be called soft skills, or earlier used to be called, just something that you naturally bring to the table. But that is something now organizations are spending to build collaboration, to build a team, or relationships, to develop emotional intelligence among their leaders, to have a growth mindset, to have learning agility. All of these things are something that some organizations are really investing into, and these are the ones who are going to have a better advantage in the future, because they are not just investing into technology, but they are also investing into their people, how those people are becoming better leaders, how those people are becoming better skilled to deal with technology and all the change that is coming. Because all of at the end of the day, you are going to have humans who are working with that technology, right? So you would need those skills to work with other humans and with the technology as well. So that is something I see a lot of good organizations doing. At the same time, like I was saying, that leaders have to create a sense of, I think, culture
Mhm.
where there is open conversations
Mhm.
about a lot of things. I
Mm.
think somewhere that psychological safety has to be created where people can be themselves. I think that is more and more, becoming important, because as the younger generation comes into the workforce, they want that independence, they want that freedom, they want that ability to be uniquely themselves. And that's what I feel that organizations should invest in, into making the culture such that it's very very inclusive, it's very very safe, and people can be their true selves. And that's where creativity comes in, that's where innovations come in, that's where new ideas come in. If we have to have a very constrictive mindset that, oh, this is the only way we are going to do this, or this is the only accepted norm, then
Mm.
obviously all of those factors go out of the window. I think so. The organizations that will succeed will have all of these aspects, or will be doing these things way more proficiently than the ones who would probably struggle in the future.
Absolutely. I think the key word here is anyone who can adapt, whether it is an
Yes,
organization or or an individual.
individual.
Yeah. So the
True.
more you can adapt yourself to the changing situations, the more resilient you are. And guess what? The more Hetal type you are.
Thank you so much.
You would be able to adapt, right? So that's so nice, when you shared all that wonderful insights, which comes naturally to you because you've been in that scenarios for all more than 2 decades now. As someone who is listening to this podcast, what is that key takeaway that you want them to learn about themselves? What is that one thing or one belief about their own growth, or one decision, whether on how an organization to invest? So what is that one thing that you want to actually convey out of this conversation?
I think, like I said, identify your own purpose. Identify what is it that you would want your life to look like, and take charge of it. So the an analogy that I gave of an architect, become that architect for your own life. Uh, at the end of the day, when you look back at, say, at 75 years of age, or or you are at your retirement party, I don't know if in future retirements party will happen or not, but whatever it is, when you look back at your life, you should have that sense of pride and achievement.
Hmm.
And that's what I always think about. And some of the coaching conversations, I start from there, that what are some of the things which are so important to you as achievements, that if you had to look back at, say, age 80 or 75, and say that, oh, had a successful life, what are some of those parameters that would make your life successful? And it may vary from individual to individual. But you know what, I have seen, and de- uh, had conversations with multiple leaders, studied multiple leaders. When you grow further in your careers, it's more about the impact that you left than the titles that you held. So I think when you
Yeah,
grow to a certain,
it's that Maslow's need hierarchy, I guess.
absolutely, absolutely. So the higher you grow, so if you see a lot of these millionaires after a certain point become philanthropists,
Mm.
because they want to give back to the society. They want
Correct.
to live
Not
behind a
everyone, though.
legacy.
There are some who wants to be trillionaires.
Yes, again, they are still probably not evolved in that Maslow's hierarchy. Hopefully, sooner or later that will come in.
Yeah.
But the fact is that as you evolve, as you achieve some of those things, you realize that the true legacy that you're going to leave behind is the impact that you had.
Absolutely.
And again, find out what those things are which will make you feel fulfilled and work on that. Don't wait for others to hand you things. Nobody is going to create your perfect career or perfect life and give it to you. You are the one who is supposed to build that for your own self. So do that. Invest in yourself. Don't wait for others to do that investment. You have to first learn to invest yourself. And thank God today there is so much available already, on YouTube, on various platforms, there are so many learning, organizations that are there. There is so much content out there. There is AI that will also be, that is also ready to teach you. So there's so much available. Use that to create the life that you desire, because at the end of the day, that's our primary responsibility. I feel we came here for a purpose, and that was to become the best version of ourselves. So when we look back at our life and its achievement, we should feel proud of what we created as a legacy. So yeah, that's what I would want to.
So brilliant and greatly summarized, Hetal. I just quickly got reminded of this interesting quote, which goes, make your life happening, or else life will happen and you will wonder what happened.
Yes.
So make your life happening enough. Otherwise, you will keep wondering
what happened. And it would be such a sad thing to feel. Regret is such a sad emotion because you can't do anything else. And I had read somewhere in some book that what if on the last day God says to you, so how was heaven?
Oh God.
So imagine if this was supposed to be your heaven or your opportunity to create your own heaven, and you just wasted it thinking somebody will come, somebody will give you something, life will hand you some opportunities, or something will happen to you. Instead, it was your opportunity to create it, not just for yourself, for other people around.
Correct.
Don't lose that opportunity, because regret is the very hard thing to have. So yes.
In our She Power Club, we've actually built the club around the 7 different pillars of life, which includes, as you were saying, about different aspects of life that makes a wholesome life. Like, for example, we have the personal growth, we have career success, health and fitness, relationships and social connections, financial well-being, passions and potentials, all your hobbies, etc. And then most importantly, the purposeful life and your legacy. So those are the 7 pillars around which our She Power Club is actually formed. And we want to make sure that all our members in our She Power Club and She Side, they benefit, or rather they are aware of all these 7 pillars and make themselves competent enough to navigate all of these 7 areas of their life. Some of us, we may be great in one area of our life, but may lack in something else. But a wholesome life would be to balance all of that. Otherwise, we can't, imagine we have so much of money, but we don't have good relationship, or we don't have good, passions, or, we don't have any hobbies, or we don't. So it's very important that we try to fulfill or have a wholesome and a rounded life. And that's,
that's wonderful, actually.
Yeah.
And that's very, very important. And I realize that, when I'm working with women, I realize one of the areas is, being confident about their own finances, or taking charge of their own finances. So that is also something that I'm really, really conscious about. And I, coach women on taking charge, or at least being aware of their own finances. So that is something that you're absolutely right. And like I was saying, many a times we focus on others so much, or giving so much, we don't take care of our own well-being, whether it's emotional or physical. So I'm so glad to hear that you're not just focusing on one aspect, but overall development. And those all 7 pillars are so, so important. So thank you so much for sharing that.
It was so wonderful to talk to you, Hetal, and to
Yeah,
know you're the
Chandra.
amazing work that you are doing in terms of that you want to build and you want to empower more lives. And that's a journey I'm also in. So, I'm pretty sure we can do a lot together
Yes, I would love
through the
to.
platform. And and also in your personal vision and how we can impact more and more lives. As you rightly said, AI can probably take over many things, but this human connection and the involvement of a real human being with the wisdom, especially someone like you who have gathered it over the past 2 decades, I'm pretty sure that is highly valuable, and that is what is going to be the currency of the future. So
Yeah, I hope so.
thank you so much once again, and I wish you all the very best for all your big dreams out there. And yes, cheers to all the
Thank you
wonderful
so
women.
much, Chandra. It was wonderful talking to you, and I'm looking forward to how I can become a more contributing member to She Side, She Power Club. And thank you so much for starting this many years ago when I'm sure it was something that was very challenging for you to do. But I'm so glad that somebody like you took that step, and today we have this wonderful platform. So thank you so much. And I'm really keen to partner with you guys. So let's do that.
All right, bye.
Thank you so much, Andra. Take care.
Hello everyone. Before you move on to the next video, I have a request to make. If you like this video and this podcast, if you gained some valuable information out of this video, I would request you to click on the subscribe button as well as follow us on our social media pages. The links are given in our description. Also, do sign up to our website, www.shesitmag.com. We have amazing women stories as well as various women initiatives that are getting launched in the coming months. I'll see you there.